Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Songbird. Songbird is a 2020 dramatic thriller that follows a courier who is immune to the COVID virus as it continues to mutate and evolve, who now is forced to race against time to save the woman he loves. She is set to be taken away to a quarantine camp. This movie was announced, filmed, and released all within the past half year and made quite the headlines when it was first announced, produced by Michael Bay, right in the middle of going through the pandemic. We were receiving a film about the pandemic. There's a pretty stacked cast involved with this film, including our lead, KJ Apa, Demi Moore, Alexandra Daddario, Craig Robinson, Paul Walter Hauser, Bradley Whitford, and Sophia Carson, all in this film. But as we know, a star-studded cast is not always a good indicator of the quality of film to come, and I was not really looking forward to watching this, but hoped maybe a Michael Bay produced film could find some way to give us something thought-provoking and interesting about the issue we're currently living through. But oh my gosh, this was even worse than I had anticipated. This movie was dreadful. So let's go ahead and talk about the positives in the film. So the real positive is that I do think KJ Apa and Demi Moore particularly are trying. They're giving it their best with the material that they were provided. For what it's worth, I think their performances are okay for the material that they were given. You can see the effort at least put in there, and Demi Moore's character was probably the most interesting in the film. She's given some terrible dialogue and some really horrible moments, but that character at least had some motives or some times to shine in the film that I thought were interesting. Honestly, the only other real positive here, you get to see KJ Apa's butt. So there you go. Alexandra Daddario also gets down to her lingerie too. So it's a couple thirst traps, lots of shirtless KJ Apa as well. Other than that, though, this film is truly a disaster right from the get-go. So let's get into these negatives, and right from the get-go, we're off to a problematic start. Because in honesty, this film, it serves as some sort of veiled, weird propaganda about the government controlling us and forcing us into our houses and not able to live, and that is not the message that needs to be sent while we are still in the pandemic. Particularly right now, as we don't have a vaccine yet and we're on the cusp of hopefully getting one, while cases continue to surge through this holiday season, and we as Americans are feeling restless and, we're hoping to get our lives back. The worst possible message to start sending through films like this is the government is trying to control you and lock you down into your house. We need to escape. We need to get out. Go, go, go. The government's trying to kill us. All of this crazy conspiracy theory type of nonsense. And that is the message that this film sends. And it starts immediately, right off the bat. And I find that to be utterly despicable. It was already tasteless to release a film about a pandemic in the middle of the pandemic, in which people are still losing their lives every single day here in the real world. So to be making this movie, this action romance about the situation and really trivializing it in so many ways, it's already tasteless enough. And then to add on top of that, this horrible, undermining, toxic, dangerous message is irredeemable, honestly. And that pretty much kills the film right there. But furthermore, there are lots of other issues to have with this movie. First of all, this script is absolutely terrible. These lines of dialogue that these characters are asked to spew sound ridiculous. Not to mention the plot itself. It's purely basic, stereotypical post-apocalyptic world, and this is only set 4 years in the future, yet we have Ferris wheel with half of the ride just fallen off somewhere. In 4 years it managed to rust that poorly and break off, I guess. I don't know. It just made no sense for the world to be in such disarray after 4 years of COVID. But then there are all of these subplot lines that loop around and try to connect to one another. The worst one by far that shouldn't have even been in the film was Alexandra Daddario's entire plotline was pointless. There is this horrible scene between her and Bradley Whitford that made me uncomfortable. And I was just like, what the hell am I watching? Everything about this is shot like a Dollar Tree version of Michael Bay with these like weird angles and close-ups. We are on Zoom calls and video calls throughout a good portion of the film, and it's not able to succeed like something like The Host or even Unfriended or Searching did with their concepts. This looks terrible as we're running around moving. The action looks terrible because the way this entire film is shot is terrible. It's directed by Adam Mason. I've never seen any of his films. Looking at his filmography, it's nothing but like D-level horror films. So, well, I don't know what else I guess you could expect. And then it's just nonsense. We have this villain who works for the government who is over the top cartoon, like way overboard. We have KJ Apa who just constantly looks wet and dirty, even though, well, as I said in my positives, we quite literally see him take a shower, yet right after that he already looks gross and dirty again. None of this makes sense. It's all just outrageous, over the top, and ridiculous while trying to ground it in the real world that we're actually living through right now. Honestly, I found Songbird to be terrible. One of, if not the worst film I have seen in 2020. This was a disaster all around. From concept to messaging to filmmaking, everything about this film failed. No, I do not recommend that you go out to see Songbird, as we are in the middle of a pandemic, and a film of this quality certainly does not warrant taking the risk to go out and see it at a theater. Honestly, I don't think you need to see this ever. So, that was my review of Songbird. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below, and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Songbird? And what is your favorite film about a virus outbreak? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!